My daughter is 8 years old, and she still talks about the night my grandmother saved her. Not in those words, obviously. She says it like this: Grandma Bet stood up really tall and everyone got quiet. That's how a kid processes a moment that would take an adult years to untangle. But she's right. That's exactly what happened, and I've been trying to figure out how to feel about all of it ever since. Let me back up. My name is Mara. I'm 31. I work in marketing for a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. And until about 4 months ago, I genuinely believed my family was, if not close, then at least functional. You know how you carry around a version of your family in your head? The version where everyone means well even when they do something hurtful. Where the weird tension at Thanksgiving is just family being family. I held on to that version for a long time. Longer than I should have. My daughter's name is Zoe. Her dad, my husband, is a man named Curtis. Calm, steady. The kind of person who doesn't say much, but when he does, it matters. We've been married 6 years. Zoe was born in our second year together, and she is, without question, the best thing I've ever been part of. My older brother is named Hugh. He's 36, lives in a newer subdivision about 40 minutes from my parents' place, married a woman named Trish 6 years ago. Trish is fine. That's the most honest thing I can say about her. She's not cruel, she's not warm. She exists in a way that makes you feel slightly evaluated every time you're around her. Hugh and Trish have a son. He's 6. His name is Beckett, and he is, by my mother's accounting, the greatest child to ever exist on this earth. I don't say that to be petty. I say it because it's the operating condition of my entire family structure, and once you understand it, everything else makes sense. My father turned 70 this past March. 70 is a big deal. My mother started planning the party in October. I know because she called me in October to talk about centerpieces. She had ideas about a venue, ideas about catering, ideas about a slideshow set to Frank Sinatra, because apparently that's who my dad likes now. She was excited, and I let myself be excited with her. My father and I have always been close in the quiet, unspoken way that some fathers and daughters are. We don't talk on the phone every week, but when we're together, there's an ease. He comes to Zoe's soccer games when he can. He taught her how to fish last summer at the lake house. She adores him. So when my mom called me in January and said the party was coming together, I assumed, of course I assumed, that we were all in this together. I asked what I could do to help. She said she had it handled. I asked if Zoe could do anything special, maybe a little speech, or present him something she'd made. My mom laughed and said, "Oh, she'll love it. It'll be so sweet." I took that as a yes. I didn't hear much after that. February passed. My mom would mention the party in passing. The caterer's confirmed. The venue is gorgeous. Your father has no idea. And I'd listen and feel that low warmth of a family doing something good together. The first week of March, I texted Hugh to ask about coordinating arrival times so we could all show up together for the surprise. He left me on read. I figured he was busy. Hugh is always a little flaky with texts. Then on a Tuesday night, 11 days before the party, I got a call from my mom. She said, and I want to be precise here because I have played this back in my head approximately 400 times. Mara, we've made some changes to the evening. It's going to be more intimate. Just immediate family and a few of your father's close friends. We think it'll be better that way. I said, okay, so same time, just smaller guest list? Pause. Well, it's going to be more of an adults' evening. We think it's better without the little ones. I said, Zoe is 8. I know, honey. She's just at that age where she gets restless, and we don't want any disruptions during the dinner. I sat with that for a second. So Beckett's not coming either? Another pause, longer this time. Beckett is going to be part of a special moment with Grandpa. It was Hugh's idea. It's really sweet. I don't want to spoil it. There it was. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I said, I see. And Curtis and I, we're still coming? My mother's voice got that particular quality it gets when she's about to say something she knows is wrong, but has already decided to say anyway. Bright. Carefully bright. We just thought with the head count being what it is, and Trisha's parents coming in from Scottsdale, We're a little tight on space, sweetheart. We'll do something separate with you and Curtis and little Zoe, I promise. Maybe brunch that weekend? Brunch. My father's 70th birthday, and my mother was offering me a consolation brunch. I said I understood, and I got off the phone and I sat on the kitchen floor. I don't know why the floor, I was just suddenly on it, and I stared at the cabinet under the sink for probably 10 minutes. Curtis came in and found me there. He didn't make a big deal of it. He just lowered himself down next to me, back against the cabinet, shoulder against mine, and said, "What happened?" I told him. He listened to all of it without interrupting, which is one of the things I love most about him. When I was done, he said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" I said I didn't know. He said, "We don't have to figure it out tonight." We didn't. But I couldn't sleep. I lay there going back over every family gathering in the last 4 years, finding the pattern I'd been refusing to see. The time my mother spent 40 minutes on the phone with Hugh during Zoe's birthday dinner. The Christmas where Beckett got the unwrapped present under the tree, the big one, the one Zoe had been eyeing, and it was presented like it had always been meant for him. The way my mother holds Beckett differently than she holds Zoe, not dramatically, just differently. The quality of her attention. Zoe has noticed. She's never said anything directly, but kids know. They always know. She'll sometimes go quiet at family things in a way she doesn't go quiet anywhere else. I didn't tell Zoe we weren't invited. I just said Grandpa's party was an adults thing and we'd celebrate with him separately. She seemed fine with it. She asked if we could get him a card she could decorate herself. And I said yes, of course, absolutely yes. She spent an entire Saturday afternoon on it. Colored pencils, stickers, her careful 8-year-old handwriting listing her 5 favorite memories with Grandpa. Number 3 was when we caught the big fish and you throwed it back in. I took a photo of it before she sealed the envelope. The night of the party, I was home. Curtis had put on a movie and we were doing the thing where you're watching something but not really watching it, and Zoe was already asleep upstairs and I was just sitting with it. The fact of it, that my father was turning 70 and I was in my living room watching a movie I couldn't name. My phone buzzed around 7:30. It was a text from my father's sister, my Aunt Bette. Bette is 73, widowed 6 years ago, lives alone in the house she and my uncle shared for 40 years in Worthington. She has the kind of face that looks like it has decided something. She calls a spade, and then explains why the spade should be embarrassed about itself. I love her more than is probably rational. The text said, "Are you and Curtis at the restaurant? I don't see you. Where are you sitting?" I stared at it for a long moment. I texted back, "We weren't invited, Aunt Bette." 3 dots. Then they stopped. Then they started again. Then stopped. Then my phone rang. "What do you mean you weren't invited?" Not a question, a statement she was making at me. I explained. My mother's call, the head count, the intimacy, the consolation brunch. I kept my voice even. I was proud of that. Bette was quiet for a moment that felt like a held breath. Then she said, "Your father does not know about this." "I figured," I said. "He has been asking where you are. Your mother told him you had something come up with Zoe." I closed my eyes. "Mara," her voice was different now, low and deliberate. "You stay by your phone." She hung up. Curtis had paused the movie at some point and was just watching me. I told him what Bette said. He nodded slowly and said, "Okay." We waited. 22 minutes later. I know because I watched every one of them. My phone rang. My father. I answered on the first ring. His voice was tight in the way it gets when he's angry, but trying not to show it in front of people. He said, "Mara, where are you?" I said, "Home, Dad." Brief silence. "I need you to get in the car." "Dad." "Please." He almost never says please like that, like it costs him something. "Please just come. Bring Curtis and Zoe. I want my granddaughter here." I looked at Curtis. He was already standing up, reaching for his keys. I woke Zoe up. She was groggy and warm and confused, and I told her we were going to Grandpa's birthday surprise, and her eyes went huge. She was dressed in 4 minutes. She grabbed the envelope with his card off the kitchen counter on the way out the door. The restaurant was about 25 minutes away. A nice place, private event room in the back. When we walked through the front door, the hostess recognized something in our faces and just pointed toward the back hallway. We walked in and the room was mid-sentence. Conversation had been happening and then it stopped. And there was that particular quality of silence that means something has already occurred. My mother was standing near the head of the table, and when she saw me, her face did something I don't have a clean word for. Not quite guilt, not quite anger. A flash of something she immediately replaced with a smile. My father was already crossing the room. He hugged me first, then Curtis. Then he went down on one knee in front of Zoe, this 70-year-old man in his good blazer, and he said, "There she is." Zoe held out the envelope. "I made you a card, Grandpa. I worked really hard on it." He took it with both hands, like it was fragile. And then he stood up and turned to the room. There were probably 30 people there, Hugh and Trish at the far end. Trish's parents, family friends, a few of my dad's old colleagues. And he said, in a voice that was perfectly clear and left no room for misinterpretation, "My daughter and her family are here. Now we can start." Nobody said anything. I heard Trish's mother say something quiet to Trish's father, and I heard nothing back. I didn't look at Hugh. I couldn't. But I did look at Bet, who was seated halfway down the table, and who met my eyes and gave me a single, small nod. Like, "This is handled?" We found chairs. Someone pulled 2 together and a booster. They didn't actually have a booster, but Zoe said she was fine and sat up very straight to prove it. The dinner resumed. My father sat at the head of the table, and every few minutes he'd glance over at us like he was making sure we were still there. My mother didn't say a word to me directly for the first 40 minutes. She was busy hosting, which is what she does when she needs to not be somewhere in herself. About an hour in, when the dinner plates had been cleared and people were starting to drift into smaller conversations, she came and sat next to me. She had a glass of white wine and she looked tired. "I should have handled this differently," she said. I looked at her. "Yes. I just thought the head count." "Mom." I didn't say it sharp, just clear. Zoe noticed. She hasn't said anything, but she notices. And I need you to understand that. My mother looked down at her wine. For a moment she looked very old, which she isn't, and very worn, which she sometimes is. "I know," she said, quietly, not an apology exactly, but the closest thing to one I've gotten from her in years. I didn't push it. I've learned that pushing it just gives her something to defend against, so I let it sit there between us, which felt like more than nothing. Toward the end of the night, my dad opened the card Zoe made. He read it at the table, out loud, not because anyone asked him to, but because he wanted to. When he got to number 3, "When we caught the big fish and you throwed it back in." His voice cracked a little and he cleared it and kept going. Zoe beamed. I watched Hugh, watched my father read that card, and I don't know what he was feeling. I don't know him well enough to know that anymore. And I think that might be the saddest part of this whole thing. On the drive home, Zoe fell asleep before we hit the highway. Curtis drove. I looked out the window at the highway lights. After a while, he said, "You okay?" I thought about it honestly. "Getting there," I said. He nodded. "Your aunt is something," he said. I laughed, actually laughed. For the first time in a while, she really is. I thought a lot about what Bet did that night. She didn't make a speech. She didn't confront anyone publicly. She did one thing. She called my father and told him the truth. She gave him the information he needed to make a choice. And my father chose. That's the part I keep returning to. Not my mother's failure, though it was a failure, and I'm not pretending otherwise. But my father's choice. Because he didn't have to make it. He could have let the evening continue. He could have called me the next morning and said he was sorry, let's do brunch. He chose to stop a room full of people and say, in front of everyone who matters to him, "My daughter belongs here." Zoe doesn't fully understand the politics of what happened. She knows Grandpa called us and wanted us there, and she got to go to a party in her pajamas and eat fancy pasta and watch Grandpa cry a little over her card. As far as she's concerned, it was a great night. She's right. It was. It was a great night, even though it took something breaking to make it that way. My relationship with my mother is complicated is too soft a word, and destroyed is too final. We're in process. I have started being honest with her in small doses, which is new, and she has started listening in small doses, which is also new. It's not fixed. I don't know if it will be. Hugh and I have barely spoken since. I'm not ready. And I think, honestly, he isn't either. There's a version of a future where we find our way to something real. I'm not counting on it, and I'm not ruling it out. But Zoe went to see my dad 2 weeks after the party. Just the two of them, and my dad at her request. They went fishing. They didn't catch anything. She came home with mud on her boots and a detailed account of everything they had talked about, which included a long discussion about whether fish have feelings, and she said Grandpa thought they probably did, a little bit, and she agreed. That feels like something, like the thing that's supposed to last. I don't know how to wrap up what happened into a lesson because I don't think it is one yet. I think I'm still in it. But I know this. When the people who were supposed to include you leave you out and someone else decides to tell the truth anyway, and the person you needed to chooses, there's something in that worth remembering. Even if you have to sit on the kitchen floor for a while before you get there. I keep thinking about that card, the one Zoe made with colored pencils and stickers and her careful, slightly misspelled handwriting. She spent a whole Saturday on it, and she handed it to my father like it was the most natural thing in the world, because for her, it was. She didn't know, she almost wasn't there to give it. She just knew she loved her grandpa and wanted him to have something made by her hands. That's what gets me. The people who tried to shrink her world that night didn't account for the fact that she would just keep being exactly who she is. Generous, unhesitating, completely unbothered by the politics happening 2 feet above her head. There's something in that worth sitting with. The way a child's decency just keeps going, steady and uncomplicated, even when the adults around her are doing the opposite of their best. I think about what Bette did, and I think about why it worked. She didn't expose anyone publicly. She didn't make a speech or send a group text or pull my brother aside for a hard conversation. She did one quiet, precise thing. She told the truth to the person who had the most right to know it. That's the kind of wisdom I want to grow into, not the wisdom that lectures or performs, but the kind that reads a situation clearly and then acts with complete economy. One phone call, one truth. That's all it took to change the entire night. And then there's my father, 70 years old, in his good blazer, going down on one knee in front of an 8-year-old who had no idea how hard that moment had been to make happen. He didn't have to do that. He could have let the evening continue and apologized to me later and told himself it wasn't worth the disruption. But he didn't. He chose, in front of everyone who has ever mattered to him, to be on the right side. That's not nothing. That's actually everything. I've been thinking lately about what it takes to live in a way you don't have to be ashamed of. Not the big dramatic gestures. Those are easy comparatively. The harder thing is the accumulation of small choices, whether you tell the truth when it's inconvenient, whether you protect someone who needs protecting, even when it costs you comfort, whether you keep going when you're not sure anything will change. Bette has done that her whole life. I've watched her do it without ever having a name for it. My father did it that night. Zoe does it naturally the way kids do before anyone teaches them not to. She just keeps showing up, keeps making things with her hands, keeps handing them over freely. I'm not there yet. I still want to disappear into the kitchen floor sometimes. I still swallow things I should probably say out loud. But I know now what it looks like when someone decides to be good. To be clear-eyed about a situation, to stand their ground with their whole chest. I've seen it. I've been on the receiving end of it. That's the thing about watching someone do the right thing. You can't unsee it. It becomes a standard you carry with you whether you want to or not. I want to live up to it. For Zoe, mostly. And honestly, a little bit for me.